My name is RiRodea, and I'm working on my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry here at Cal State San Marcos. Right now I am the president of the American Chemical Society Club on campus. I've been president for 2 semesters now. This is my 2nd semester. I love environmental chemistry. That's where my big interest lies. I'm hoping that I can do something with water, so something environmentally with water would be really, really cool as far as I'm concerned. But anything as far as analytical chemistry, using instrumentation and things like that, is really fun for me. And so I hope that whatever field I end up with, that I can do something along those lines. There's a lot of things that I've realized in talking to especially professors that went to larger schools. We, as chemistry undergrads, are required to do undergraduate research, and that means that we get 2 full semesters of experience in a lab setting with a real thing. So places like UCSD or UCLA or a lot of the bigger schools, you don't get that, and you also don't get to work with any of the instrumentation that we get to use on campus. We have some really cool stuff. We have a lot of things that other labs don't even have or that undergraduates aren't even allowed to touch. So as far as our curriculum goes, we really get to use a lot of things that you would use in the real world that a lot of people don't get to use. I do. It's really cool. I've actually met our dean several times. She's done talks in my classes that are relevant to my education. I mean, she is a chemist, so that helps, but otherwise, it's been a really good experience having a college that's still very small by comparison. You get a lot more individual attention. Our class sizes are still really small. I mean, my maximum class size, I think, has been 45 students. And that's so cool. It's cool that you can still get individual attention in all of your classes. And that's all of it. It's all of my mathematics classes, my physics classes, chemistry classes, all of those. So they know me. There's a lot of accountability. So as far as our faculty, the program is so small that all of your professors know you. And if they know you, you don't want to disappoint them. I mean, you don't want to do poorly. You're not just another face in the crowd. You're a student, and they know your name, and they know how well you're doing or what you're struggling with. And that's really cool for me to have that accountability, and then to know that somebody actually cares about you too. So if you're having a hard time or if something personal is going on and they know, they'll help you out. They'll talk to you and say, hey, what can I do? Where are you at? Do you need extra study time, or what do you need? And that's been really cool for me here. I would say that I'm just motivated by my degree. I've been in college actually for a long time. I was originally a business major, and it just wasn't the right place for me. And so as far as I'm concerned, I would like to graduate. I want to get a job. I always call it my grown-up job or my real people job, which my job right now isn't bad, but it's to be able to work in a field that you love, that you've had an education for. That inspires me every single day. I think about that. And working on what I love every day, that's cool. That's so neat. That's something that a lot of people still in this world don't get to do, and I'm going to get to do it. And so finishing my degree and getting there is really, really important to me. To be successful, it's all of the regular stuff that they tell you all throughout school. You need to study, you need to try, you need to care, you need to go to class. That's one of those big things, is even missing one class is really detrimental as far as your education goes. And just being successful here at CSUSM is talking to your professors, making sure that they know who you are, where you're at. If you're struggling with a topic, to go to them and to say, hey, I don't understand this, and this is why. I've never had a professor here refuse me during they all have office hours, and they've all been extremely helpful as far as answering questions and making sure that I understand the material, as long as you seek out that help. And we also have the STEM Center here, which is really cool. So you can get help in a lot of different places, and that's important to make sure that you're trying as hard as everybody else is. It's unique because it's small. There's, like I said earlier, you're not just a face in the crowd. You're an individual, and you're a person here, and there's not 10 million students. You know your professors, you know everybody, and you know your classmates too. So I've never had a class that has 200 kids in it. So I know a lot of the people that I've gone through the program with, and so starting from my general chemistry and then up until right now, there's a lot of people that I'm graduating with that I know really well and have been able to work with and form study groups and things like that, and you don't really get that opportunity at a much bigger institution. That was the big thing. The instrumentation and things that we have, the undergraduate research, are 2 huge things that you can put on your resume. I mean, even if you don't have an internship, you can still say, hey, I've done research in a lab, I've worked with a professor, these are the different instruments that I've used, these are the techniques that I've learned and the skills that I've learned. Even outside of your regular lab classes, you still have those in a regular lab setting, which is a huge thing. And I did a lab tour with Millennium Laboratories recently, and that was one of the things they were saying is like, if you have experience with this kind of instrument, you're almost guaranteed a job, because so many people out there have never even touched one or seen one or know how it works. And it's like, we have that. Like I've used one and done experiments with it, and I understand how it works and the mechanics and things like that. For the chemistry department, there's a requirement, chemistry and bio department. It works a little bit different for different subjects, but for us, it's required, which is kind of intimidating at first, because you need to speak to the different professors, you need to ask them about their research and find what interests you. But that's the cool part, is you get to choose who you're going to be working with. So you talk to them, you find what interests you, and then you work with them 6 hours a week for 2 semesters, and then at the end of the 2 semesters you do your you'd write a senior thesis. It's about a 10-page paper, and then you also do a talk, your senior talk, which is good too, because it gives you a presentation experience on doing talks and things as well. And that's usually about 20 minutes with a question and answer session, and it's open to everybody, so everybody's about to come, which is a little bit intimidating, but it's still cool because you get that experience and you get to see how it works. But you work with a professor individually, you meet with them consistently, and you get to do whatever you're working on. So the way that you collaborate is, you're working on their research generally. Mine's a little bit, well, I think it's better, but mine's a little bit different because the professor that I'm working with is a physical chemist, and his research is a little bit too much. So as far as me and the other girl that I'm working with in the lab, we got to pick our own projects. And that was really cool because he actually asked us what we're interested in and what we think would be cool, or what kind of a project we would like. And so we're each working on our own projects, and then we meet with him very consistently 1 to 2 times a week, or while we're working, we'll meet with him several times during the day, just to, for direction is the big thing. So I've got my plan, but if like a monkey wrench comes in, I can say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, or this is what I'm not thinking. So there's a lot of opportunity for all of the students in research to really talk to their professors and see what direction or path they should go in, or to get questions answered, or to have the opportunity to kind of think their own thoughts and put their ideas out there too, to see if that would help. For my undergraduate research, I'm working, it's a little hard to explain. So there's this thing called a gas chromatograph. It's a big machine. It's like this big. And it's a great machine, and it works really, really well. But Vernier has a company, and they've made a little itty bitty tiny one. It's about this big. So what they say as far as selling this particular item is that it's great for a classroom setting. And so what I've been doing is actually testing it and saying, hey, could we use this to do real-time things? And one of the things in particular is, as far as physical chemistry goes, there's something called the enthalpy of vaporization. The enthalpy of vaporization can be solved using a gas chromatograph, and it's a little bit complicated on that end, but just to make sure it's accurate, so you can compare all of your results. And so I've been testing different analytes and testing different markers to see if this actually works, if you can use it to solve for it, and what kind of hitches it has as far as like what it works with and what it doesn't work with. It works, but it's very particular. They came out with a new one, so the new, more fancy one has a lot bigger range, because the one right now, the detector is kind of weird. So the range is very small on the actual things that it can detect. And one of the things that is generally used a lot in chemistry is hydrocarbons, which is just carbon and hydrogens, big chains of them, little chains of them, but just carbons and hydrogens, and it can't detect those at all. So it's a little bit hard. It can't detect anything that's very large. So it can be used in a lab setting for very particular things, but not necessarily any setting. So you have to kind of pick and choose what you're using. I just like it here. I've had a great experience at Cal State San Marcos. I think it's really great here. There's so much support, and the students and faculty have been really, really wonderful as far as everything goes. We have Learning Assistants, which is a program that I'm participating in right now, where you actually help other students in classes where the professors need help. And that's been a great experience too, just like teaching people what I know and using that knowledge and kind of refreshing and doing things like that. But just the faculty is very great about listening to the students, and I find that's really, really cool, and I just don't know if I would get that anywhere else.